2020. Please stand for invocation by Mr. Salazar. Microphone.
Dear God, as we come together tonight, may you shower your blessings upon each of us present and prepare our hearts and minds for the things that will be discussed. Lord, help us to set a good example in the way we speak, act, and the decisions that we make. Let everything we discuss here be in alignment with what is best for our students and children, and may we consider all points of view with an open mind. Help us to wisely address any grievances and be willing to act upon the solutions people give us. May your wisdom and peace fill this evening. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Thank you, sir. Fire evacuation. In case of emergency, we have the exit to the rear of the chambers, or to my left, your right, and to the left and down to the rear parking lot. Before roll call, just wanted to let you know if anyone wants to speak during public communications, there's a sign-up sheet over on the counter. So please roll call.
Mr. Salazar,
Here.
Mr. Rutledge,
Here.
Mrs. Costa. Here. Mrs. LeBlanc, Mrs. Hall,
Here.
Mrs. Thurston. Here. Mr. Ryder,
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Here.
Chairman Cruzel.
Here. Mr. Blank had a prior arrangement. She couldn't make it tonight. And Superintendent Drezek had a prior arrangement also that we knew about months ago that he could not make this meeting tonight. So, thank you. Board guests, we have the JFK Building Committee here. So would representatives from that please come on up, and whoever's going to speak. And name, rank, and serial number for the record.
Where's your coat? All right, so you're gonna run that? Yep. Good evening. Thank you very much. My name's Randy Daigle. I am fortunate to be the chairman of the JFK Building Committee. And I'll let each of these individuals grab the mic.
I'm Jim Hoagland with JCJ Architecture, the lead project architect for the project.
Chris Cycli, Construction Solutions Group, Owner's Project Manager for the project.
And Amar Shamas with Gilbane Building Company, Construction Managers.
So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of walk you guys through the floor plan, elevations, and site. Kind of bring you up to speed on where we are. The drawings are now finalized. And after we go through this presentation, we're going to be asking for approval to authorization to go out the bid for the state of Connecticut. We could get into as much detail as you want, and at any point, please stop and ask questions as we go. You don't have to wait till the very end. Some areas we're going to move fast on. Some areas we'll get into a little bit more detail. But as you know, this has been a long road to be where we are right now. And just to throw this out there a little early is that we are on schedule, and so far we are still under budget. So I just want to put that out there. So we'll start with the architect, and at different points, each of us are going to interject different things. So, and again, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Great, thank you. It's been a little while since we've been in front of you, so I think we're going to back up a little bit and show you some of the illustrative site plans and building plans just to bring everybody up to speed, and so we're all kind of on the same page as far as what the scope of work for the project is. But this evening, we're really asking you to approve the construction documents, which includes over 400 drawings and over 1,000 sheets of specifications. We're scheduled to go to the state tomorrow to begin that review. So there's been a significant work effort put forth, and it's good to reach this point, get to this point. So we'll just kind of run through. All of you are familiar with the existing site, the existing building. You can see on the left part, Raffia Road runs north-south. The existing building with the center hub and the 7 wings that spiral out from it. And then all the play fields off to the right-hand side of that drawing, just to orient everybody for the existing site plan. So the overall site plan, we're proposing to do a relatively small addition to the building, reworking some of the site circulation. Right now, there's some overlapping vehicular traffic. The buses conflict with some of the parent drop-off. So with reworking the site plan, we're correcting all of those problems, straightening out some of the vehicular issues, and we're actually expanding some of the parking and putting it in places on the site which we feel are more appropriate for some of the community uses with the reorganization of the overall building. So you can see we're also on the far right-hand side of this drawing reorganizing all of the play fields in their existing location, but we're turning the ball field, we're rotating it 90 degrees so there's better solar orientation, and we're trying to optimize all of the practice fields. You can see some of these fields are overlapping. We've had some discussions as to when these fields are actually being used during the course of the year, which season they're being used. So I think with this slight reorganization, we've been very efficient with the money that we're spending on the fields in that area. But we think that it's a very efficient layout, and I think that we're going to get a lot of bang for the buck as far as the money that we're spending on the fields. One of the big moves that we made on the site was to extend the bus loop all the way around the building. And we're now exiting the buses at the far south end, which would be the bottom part of this drawing. So they enter the northern part and loop all the way around the building, very much like how they function right now. We're stacking almost 30 buses across there in the morning where they drop off, and then in the afternoon they stack up and the kids leave the building and come out. But the big thing is we're completely separating it from the parent loop. So the parent loop comes into the new front door to the school, and will have its own dedicated entrance and exit, which will be completely separate from the buses.
So currently, as you all know, there's cross paths of pedestrians, parents, and children being dropped off while the bus route is in place. That is one of the big things that we really emphasize that our design on is put the bus loop. Once they drop the kids off, it runs the perimeter of the property. On the inside is where the parents will be able to come. There's a designated area. At no point do those two paths cross. Also, what I wanted to bring up regarding the site plan is, as you can see in the site plan, there's the 2 basketball courts that are at a little bit to the right of the new addition. One of the things that the architects were able to achieve is from the previous design that we had, there was a huge retaining wall, and that was several $1 million worth of retaining wall because of the grade differential between the school and the playing fields. What the architects did was they took the basketball courts and they brought them down halfway. By achieving that, we were able to do an ADA accessible ramps throughout the entire fields without having to put retaining walls in. So you go down several feet, the basketball courts will be there, and then it will continue to slope down to the rest of the fields. All of them will be within the ADA allowable pitches, and now each of those fields will be accessible by a ADA accessible ramp path. So all the fields now are accessible, where before you couldn't get to them because it was all dirt. So I just wanted to bring up the savings based on the design on the site.
Yeah, and based on that reorganization, we're actually able to locate some of the parking spaces, especially handicap parking spaces, closer to the ball field. So for games, even on weekends, we're going to have plenty of parking spaces as close to the play fields as we can get them, with full handicap accessibility down to them. Just to orient you to the building, this is just a diagram. The blue portion of the building is the portion that will be fully renovated like new, and then the peach part, the reddish part, is the new addition, and that's primarily the new auditorium and a new public entry for the community spaces. So the first floor plan, there has been a dramatic reorganization of the building. And some of the big moves that we've made correlate directly with the phasing that I think Gilbane, our construction manager, will talk a little bit about. So some of the big moves are taking the pool and turning it into a new cafeteria. It's a nice big volume of space, plenty of area, and it actually gives us an opportunity to build a brand new kitchen where the former locker rooms are. Right now, it's a dramatically underutilized area of the building. It was really one of the first areas that we targeted to try to make space a little more efficient. And in the grand scheme of things, by moving the cafeteria over there, it actually freed up a lot of other spaces that we could then utilize through the phasing of the project. So you can see the red, white, and blue wings all remain as classroom wings. They're the two-story portions and really the true academic pieces of the building. Each of those wings is the two-story classroom wings, and each one will be dedicated to a grade. So one will be a sixth grade, one will be a seventh, and one will be an eighth grade wing. Some of the other big moves that we've made is once the new cafeteria gets moved over to where the existing pool is, that frees up a big spot of the building as well. And we've chosen to relocate the new main entry to the school to that portion of the building. So we're now able to consolidate all of the admin features and aspects and program pieces which are currently spread throughout the entire building into that one area. So you're going to have the principal, you're going to have all of the social services, you're going to have the guidance department, the nurse, some social services, and some of the special ed functions right at that front door. We think that that's a really good way to deal with that portion of the building. It also gives us the ability to make it very clear where the front door to the school is, which we thought was really important.
One of the advantages of doing that is, as you know right now, if a parent or anybody wants to go inside the building, they have all these accesses throughout the building. And once you're in, you walk around anywhere you want. It's very hard for security or the school to control access to and around and within the building. By having the main entrance and all the staff and everything up in that area, a parent could come in, they go through a secure area, they go into the administration area, somebody gets the child and brings it down. No longer will the parent be allowed to just randomly walk around the school freely as they currently do. So the security was a main concern of ours. Without getting into detail, we have spoken with the town, we have spoken with the state. JCJ was part of the committee and the developer authors of the new requirements for school procedures for safety and security based on the Sandy Hook. So we were very fortunate to have all that information from them and experience, but we have specific types of glass at the entrance. I'm not going to get into detail. We have specific glass in specific areas to prevent anything from penetrating it, let's say. But as we were saying, the main area, the main entrance now, you just come in and it's not a lockdown. You're not locked down in it, but you're controlled in where you go. If you're going to be going throughout the school, you will be escorted. It's no longer just a free random. Once you're in, you walk around, do what you want.
Some of the other big moves that we've made, once that new main entry got established, we were able to look at some of the other areas of the building. The existing media center is going to stay in place, be slightly renovated. It's the newest part of the building, probably in the best shape. So there isn't a whole lot of work that has to happen there. But some of the smaller offices that currently are housed in the wing that connect the hub out to the media center, some of the small offices actually get consolidated into the new main admin and frees up that wing, and we're actually able to establish a new world language wing. And right now, the world language classrooms are sprinkled and spread throughout the entire building. So from a departmental nature, it's going to be nice to pull all those world language classrooms together and have those teachers be able to collaborate and talk to each other and work with each other in that wing. The other big move is the new construction in the building, and that's going to be a new 607-seat auditorium, and it's going to fit in between where the current tech ed wing is and the gym. So we're taking that wedge of open space, inserting a brand new auditorium and a new public entry to that portion of the building. We chose that part of the building because the gym And the cafeteria also gets so much community use. And by creating one single community entry, a big lobby that serves the auditorium, the gymnasium, and the cafeteria, we're able to create a new public side to the building. And right now, it's the back side of the building, and there's not much going on back there. This is also an area, the site that we're able to expand some parking. So that bigger auditorium is going to be well served by the site development in that area as well and tie in nicely.
Another thing that we were able to accomplish by doing that with the auditorium, the cafeteria, and the gymnasium is at night when there's events going on, the rest of the school is locked down. There is not access throughout the entire school like there currently is now. Right now, the custodians have a heyday after an event because they literally have to go around in every classroom to make sure nobody's wandering, nobody's hanging out in these places after there's a public event. By doing the design that we did, we're able to lock down the rest of the building. You come in through the new public entrance in the rear, and you exit through the new public entrance in the rear. There's adequate parking there, so people aren't parking on one side of the campus and walking all the way around the building to get there. There's adequate parking to have functions on that one side now.
And once the new auditorium gets built, that actually frees up the existing auditorium in the center of the building. And that's really one of the issues that Randy was alluding to. Right now, everybody that comes for the auditorium is into the deepest part of the building with access to the whole building, essentially. So once the auditorium moves out to the perimeter of the building, the existing auditorium will be converted into tech ed spaces. So we have a robotics lab, we have some materials testing labs, and the idea there is that we really put learning on display. The students are going to have to come out of their classroom wings, and going to any special, they're going to have to circulate around all those spaces. And we've opened those up. We've opened up some of the bearing walls, added a lot of glass and visual connections to all the learning and some of the exciting stuff that's going on in those robotics labs and tech ed labs in the heart of the building. The upper floor, this just highlights the two-story classroom wings, so you can see each, the red, white, and blue wing are the only two-story portions of the building. Correct, yep. So kind of stepping back a little bit, we were in front of Planning and Zoning a couple of months ago. Gosh, it seems, well, it was a while ago. But we created some images just to try to help Planning and Zoning understand the scale of the building and how all the pieces and parts were fitting together. So we pulled a couple of the images just to help you try to understand. This image is a bird's eye view. It's actually almost a view that a drone would have if it was hovering above the parent drop-off lot. So you're looking back at what is the former cafeteria and is becoming the new main entry to the school. So we're providing a canopy that extends out with some signage, so it's real obvious all the way out from Raffia Road as you head north or south to be able to see exactly where that main entry is. And you can also see the bus loop around the right-hand side of that drawing, or the parent loop around the right-hand side of that drawing. And we're trying to extend that as much as we can. It seems that today more and more parents are driving their students to school, picking them up. And despite the 30 buses that we have ringing the building and talking to the principal, it seems like that's becoming more and more of an issue. So we're trying to maximize some of that parent pickup drop-off congestion that currently exists out on the site.
As you can see, there's a little dogleg where the parents will be able to swing out of the line of traffic, drop their children off, and then go back in. Right now, the parents are in the same lane and they stop. So everybody behind them has to wait, and then they go ahead. So right now, it's just a traffic jam, as you all know. So what we've done is been able to put, I believe it's up to 12 cars pulling off as traffic still continues to go by them.
Yeah, in the entirety of that loop, as it comes up off Raffia Road, we're stacking more than 50 cars in the loop. So, and about 8 to 10 right by the front door with a dedicated drop-off. So we think it's going to work really well. And then this is the same view, but just from eye level. So as you're standing in the parking lot, if a visitor parks in the parking lot, there's a crosswalk that comes right across into this new entry plaza, and you get a good idea of the scale of that canopy that would bring you right into the front door and that secure entry that Randy was talking about before.
Now, and as you can see in this illustration here, there's these giant boulders. They're not only aesthetically pleasing opposed to those concrete ballards, they're there for security. Kids can sit on them and talk, but they're also there to prevent vehicles from being able to enter into the building or, smash into the front entrance. Traditionally, you would see these little bollards and concrete with steel inside, and they're not really artistically pleasing or visually pleasing. So by able to do something like this, gives it a more natural look, but it has a multi-purpose. These stones are there for a specific reason. It just wasn't something that we just decided to drop in place.
Yeah, we've utilized this approach in other schools, and it's been very, very successful, especially at this age. The middle school kids just like to hang out, and if they're waiting for mom or dad to pick them up from school, it's great. They just lean, they sit on these rocks, and it seems to work pretty well. So this is a view of the back side of the building. So what you're seeing is the new auditorium and that new public lobby, which would bring you in, and as you enter the building, the auditorium would be on your right, and the gymnasium, the existing gymnasium, would be on your left. But once again, we're trying to create a public lobby which brings people across from the existing parking area into this area, and then into all those community spaces. And then this is just a view up a little bit higher. You can see how the sidewalk and that plaza would draw people in from the parking lot, which is just off the right-hand side of this drawing. And then some of the other drawings that we've been through as far as approval process, planning and zoning obviously wanted to see the exterior elevations. We're not changing the character of the building all that much. It will have a fresh look. It will still be brick with the punched windows. We're putting all new windows in. And in some of the bigger public spaces, the new cafeteria, we're really opening it up and trying to bring in as much natural light as we possibly can. But we're doing new roofs, which gave us an opportunity to put some new fascias on the upper portion of these buildings. So we tried to change the proportion a little bit. With the extent of existing building, I don't think the aesthetic is going to change all that much, but it's going to look new and fresh. So we have a couple of these. Planning and zoning, we talked a little bit about some of the sight line issues. We're putting new mechanical equipment up on top of all those two-story classroom wings and some of the others. So you will see some mechanical screening trying to hide some of that new mechanical equipment. Planning and zoning was really interested in some of that. And then another aspect, we spent a lot of time talking to the committee, talking about the interior character and how we're going to transform how the inside of the school felt to the students and staff that are currently there. So we spent a lot of time modeling, 3D modeling the interiors, and these are just some of the drawings that we utilize, trying to communicate the feel and materials that we're anticipating in the new portion of the building, as well as the renovated portion of the building. So this is just the public lobby. So you're actually standing back in that new portion, looking back out towards where you would enter, with the gymnasium on the right-hand side, the existing gymnasium on the right-hand side of this drawing, and then the new auditorium on the left-hand side. We talked extensively with the committee about materials. We brought in physical samples. We were showing them what type of tile we're using, color schemes. We propose keeping the color coordination of all the wings, the red, white, and blue wing. I think everybody identifies with. The students really understand it, as well as the green wing. What does that mean? The yellow wing, and we were actually able to incorporate some of the highlight and accent colors in each of those wings to maintain the integrity and character of that, but while freshening it up and giving it a really nice modern look. This is just a view that we utilized with the committee for the auditorium. Really kind of a modern look. We're using some acoustical panels on the walls. It's actually a fake wood look. It's going to perform extremely well acoustically, and it's going to have a nice, clean, slick, modern look. We're incorporating a lot of high-tech lighting. It's going to all be LED, very efficient lighting, but the feel of the auditorium is going to be completely different than the one that the school is living with currently. Uh-oh. Oh, what happened?
And that concludes our presentation.
Mike? That's weird. It was shown before. Huh.
Jim,
Yeah,
the LED lighting you referred to isn't specific to the auditorium, it's specific to the entire building, correct?
correct. The entire building is going to be
Correct.
LED. Yep. I'll tell you what. That's why I always bring two of these.
Wow.
I can't wait for the new traffic design and everything. They're constantly stuck in that. Not even my challenge.
The gym is obviously going to have some kind of locker rooms, right? Because you're taking away the existing locker rooms? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You know, one of the things, speaking of the traffic, is that we did a traffic study for the state, and the state determined that we were able to keep enough the vehicles inside the new layout that it wasn't going to dictate a traffic light or a new stop sign or additional lanes on Raffia Road. So that was a lot of dollar savings there.
Actually, it's very nice. That road is more very pleasant, like people go in and out, but I don't think we pay enough.
Yeah, it's a certain learned behavior, and I think there's going to be a new traffic pattern. There will be a slight learning curve, but we think it's going to function a lot better than it does right now. So, okay, all right. Some of the other images that we talked to the committee about were just the refurbished gym. We're using the volume of the gym, but there will be a brand-new wood floor, athletic wood floor into the gym. We're also treating it acoustically, so we're treating the ceiling, so it's going to be much more sound absorbent, as well as you can see some sound panels on the walls. We'll have brand new bleachers in that space, and really kind of be able to theme it to, you know, the athletics that are happening for the middle school. This is a quick view of the cafeteria, and you can see the idea of kind of a big open space. One of the things that we talked to the principal about was having flexibility to have a big open space and then also be able to shut it down into some smaller dining areas. We find that smaller groups of students tend to behave a little bit better when they're in a smaller group. They feel like they're being watched a little more closely. So we actually have the ability to shut this cafeteria into 4 separate spaces, or open it up into one. So I think it's going to give the staff a lot of flexibility as to how they're going to manage and oversee the cafeteria waves coming in, each of the lunch waves. Movable
partitions. And they don't have to be closed all the way. They could be 3/4, just enough to allow people to go through, but it will give visually an area for maybe each grade, or however they want to set it up.
And then moving to some of the academic wings, you can see we're trying to create brand-new entries into each of those and re-theme them. Right now, the students, when they're going to the red, white, or blue wing, there's a little painted line in the hub that brings you into there. So we're trying to take a much different approach with some kind of super graphics, some signage, something that's a lot more modern looking. So you can see the signage on the left depicting the entry to the white wing is a signage that kind of replicates itself throughout the interior of the building as well as the outside of the building. If you remember, the new main entry had some big white translucent panel signage to locate the main entry. So we're reusing some of those details within the building here itself, which helps orient the students around the hub. And then this is a view into the blue hub. You can see, once again, we're utilizing some of those translucent panels for big signage, as well as some of the floor patterns that you can see. Entering each of the academic wings, the accent colors are going to change, be really evident that students are going to know exactly which wing they're in. as well as some of the academic specialty spaces. So you're beginning to see some of the technology spaces that are just off to the left. We have student work areas, some resource rooms, as well as teacher work rooms that are now located in the hub. One of the things when students are changing, coming from classes and going to specials, is there's very little opportunity for staff oversight when they're moving. Now we've located all the teacher workrooms in the hub and opening up with glass, so as the students are circulating through the hub, there's always going to be teachers in the workroom and there's always going to be eyes on the street. And we think it's going to be a big difference as far as behavior with students moving throughout the building. This is just a rendering, one of the typical classrooms. You can see we're utilizing some agile furniture. You know, all the desks and chairs can be picked up, moved around very easily, reconfigured. It's going to give the teachers a lot of flexibility as to having students work within groups inside the classroom or work individually, as well as trying to take advantage of every space within the classroom. The walls are two of the 4 walls will have a writable surface, so you'll be able to write on the entire wall pretty much. You're not just going to be limited to a 4x8 marker board, things like that. So there's a lot of 21st century learning ideas that we're trying to incorporate into all the classrooms here. So the reason we're really here tonight is to ask you to approve the construction documents to go to bid. So we have a number of drawings back here, and we just kind of pulled a couple of the example drawings here. So there's code information, which obviously you can't read on the screen, but there's a tremendous amount of information that goes into all of these documents, looking at the overall square footage of the building, fire separations, and just ensuring that the building is going to meet all the modern codes. We can go through a couple of the areas here, some of the area sheets. This is Area B, which is the new auditorium. So you can see the general layout and some of the adjacencies for the music rooms and art rooms in that new wing. So.
Now, as you can see on this one here, it's a little bit clearer. We have the band and the choir area. I know there's been some talk regarding more rumors than talk, apparently, of the band area. The new band area is substantially larger than the current. We're going to be able to house all the kids that are in band at the current time with a little bit of an overflow of square feet. The ceilings, we're not going to have standard ceilings like you see up here, acoustic, these type of ceilings, drop-in ceilings. They're going to be I don't know if we have any pictures of them, but there's going to be like clouds. The ceiling's around 11 feet 4 inches inside the band room. We also had it tested for acoustical. We have certain requirements by code, acoustical-wise, and we had an acoustical consultant come in, and we are below the required acoustical requirement, the rating. By achieving, instead of having a flat ceiling, it's an open, exposed with, they're called clouds, but they're little pieces of ceiling that absorb it. And what it does is it takes the sound and it refracts them, and it has them like more or less crash into each other, so the echo and the sound itself does not come to your ears. So just to put that out there, because again, you know, we want to be as transparent as possible. We're trying to do everything we can right. We got one time to do it like the high school, so everything we're doing for a reason. We're not just designing things for sake of designing it. And we met with just about every single user. We met with every department and every department head. We invited specific users to be part of it. We met with custodians. We met with the teachers. We've tried to encompass everything that we possibly can based on the end users. I mean, everything from the custodians to, instead of having your concrete wall stop, your CMU wall stop, it's got a cove on the bottom. So when they're mopping, it catches it. If it's square, that little piece is going to be dirty, and then they got to scrape it. So the details that we took to design this is beyond what standard or traditionally done, because we know we got one shot here. So.
I have a couple more sheets. We probably don't want to get into too much detail, but as far as the 2-story classroom wings, and we can come back to any of these detailed if people have detailed questions. Just the basically grade configuration, so take like a 7th grade classroom wing and how those team teaching organization will work as far as 3 classrooms with a science lab, and then teacher workspaces and the toilets in each of those classroom wings, fully renovated to new. And then the center hub, it's going to probably be one of the more transformational parts of the building, going from the old auditorium, we're introducing natural light, and then those tech spaces, I think are going to be a really dynamic aspect. And then we've also been working with all of our consultants. You know, it isn't just this team here, but we have electrical consultants that are coordinating all of the lighting, all of the power in parts of the building, as well as, you know, we've been working with the construction manager as far as the phasing and exactly how those temp spaces are going to get built out and what the experience for the students within temporary classrooms is going to be through the course of construction. So, and all of this information is in the set of documents. In fact, I was just meeting with the health department downstairs before this meeting, going through some final plans with the kitchen layout and talking about, does this mop sink really need to be here? Should we move it over to this corner of the room as opposed to this corner of the closet? So the level of detail has been tremendous, and you know, as Randy alluded to, we've gotten great feedback from all the end users, and we're really, really confident that this is a solid plan moving forward. So I think at this point, probably open it up for questions unless we want to start going through some detail.
Do you want to go through the phasing plans, or do you want to?
Yeah, I think we should go
Just.
Yeah, I think we should go through the phasing plans. Anybody got questions beforehand?
One question.
Ms. Hall.
When you take this to the state, as you're planning to, how many hours do you have to spend with each document?
It depends on the state. Yeah, overall, the work that's gone into each of the documents is thousands and thousands of hours, but our state review, we'll sit with them all day tomorrow. We'll be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it'll probably be until probably 3, 4 o'clock when they get their review, and sometimes we have to go back on a second day.
That would be my expectation, just looking at the specification documents.
There's a tremendous amount of, well, there's a whole checklist that you run through. There's documents, there's certified letters that are signed and stamped, and it goes to acoustical, you know, and it's everything. So they're gonna look and see you know, the health department sign off, and building department, the building inspector. All of those sign off. So it's a lengthy, in-depth process that we go through. And we'll deliver the documents to them, go through those checklists, and they'll verify that we have all the information that we're supposed to. And then they take weeks on end going through and doing their review, and then they'll issue a report and asking questions and clarifications.
So it'll take probably a month before you get a response?
I think so, yeah. I think it's usually 3 to 4 weeks. Yep, before we actually get a final response, and then that's actually the ultimate approval to go to bid, and we'll pull together bid documents and put it out to bid. And I think that's what Amar would like to talk about.
Oh, okay. And we've met with the state throughout the process. This is not the first time that they've seen it. We have weekly and biweekly meetings, and the state is involved in them. Every other week, we're at JCJ's office for several hours, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. I've spent close to 100 of my vacation hours attending these meetings. I keep kidding these guys. I'm the only one there that's not getting paid. But we've been with the state throughout this entire process, so this is not the first time that they're going to see it. But this is the final approval, so they go every single page.
Could have taken months just to talk to them about it.
Oh, it
Except
has.
that they've done it already.
It has, yeah.
Right.
Good evening. I'm Marshall Moss with Gilbane Building Company. I'm actually the project exec on the project, and we're going to have a team of project manager, superintendent on the project, about 6 team members. we have developed a specific phasing plan for this particular project like we do with any project. And I'm going to walk you through it, how we're actually going to start construction and move forward and march along the actual renovations and the addition to this particular project. So starting with, as Jim indicated earlier, our goal is to mobilize later on this May. At this point in time, once the document get approved by the state, we'll receive those documents and we'll prepare what we call our proposal forms at the bid docs, and those will go out for the bidding purposes hopefully sometime in early March. And we typically wrap up all the bidding process in about an 8-week period. So we'll be back in front of the town around late May or so to present what we call the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, which is really, it's about a $72.5 million, the construction cost for this particular project. And I believe it's 84 total. So, and Chris will talk about that later on. But as it relates to that, so once we have all the pricing and the bids have been received and tallied up, we will actually mobilize on site, which we're targeting right now at mid to late May. And the process is going to start as I'm going to walk you through the interior phasing, then I'm going to take you on the exterior, how we're actually going to approach the construction for this particular site. So starting with the actual addition itself, because that's going to lend itself for us to start right away. The building will be occupied around late May, so we'll be eager to start as soon as the school goes into summer recess. The areas that we're going to be attacking is really the areas that you see shaded in yellow, and those are going to be the actual auditorium addition. We'll be starting mobilizing, setting up our temporary fence. And again, since the building is going to be occupied, our construction area is going to be completely separated from the occupied areas. We're going to have construction fencing, barriers, and obviously anything that will not disrupt. All the deliveries will be staged and will be coordinated with the school staff, and obviously avoiding the bus drop-offs and pickups. In addition to the auditorium area start, we're actually going to be starting the main artery or the main hub of the electrical systems and the fire protection system, and that's the area back here, which is critical to getting that area completed to be able to support the renovations of the blue wing as well as the addition itself. So that's kind of, we're looking at this to start in May. As we march forward to the next slide, which is what we call phase 2. I'm sorry for the little thumb thing down at the bottom. So you'll see that's this coming summer. You'll see the construction areas are expanding. There's all the yellow shaded areas. We're going to be expanding our operations from the new auditorium addition that's going to be actually going into the existing TechEd wing, as well as the blue wing. And then we're also going to be looking at the pool area. We're going to start actually demolishing the interior of that particular area and fill in the pool and basically establish it for the new cafeteria wing. The area that's not going to be touched is the actual gym area, because that's going to be utilized when the school comes back in September. In addition to that, during that summer, we have 3 areas of temporary swing space that we're going to have to prepare during that summer timeline. One of them being the ALP space, and that actually they're currently right in the home economic area, so they're going to need to be moved because we're going to be out in this particular area renovating. So in discussing it with the administrators as well as the design team and CSG, we came up with a fairly good idea of moving these folks of that particular program once, so they don't have to move around, because we're going to be touching every part of the building. So we selected an area that's going to be actually renovated last, and I'll show you that at the end of the project. So they'll be relocated to this particular blue area, and they will remain there for the duration of the construction up until their space when it's finally completed, which is actually in this wing right here. That's kind of their final location. In addition to that, we're going to be renovating some temporary swing classrooms. This particular project, the only addition that's being added is really an auditorium, so we're not adding a classroom wing, so we do not have a swing space. So in order to construct a swing space, we have to look at the existing building. What can we maximize within the existing building to be able to provide a swing space? And one area we looked at is the seating area in the existing cafeteria, so we're going to convert that into classrooms, and I'll show you the layout. Jim presented it early on. And dealing with renovations of this type, there's always hazardous materials. You're looking at asbestos-containing tile. There's PCBs on the interior of the building. There's also PCBs on the exterior of the building. But as we renovate this particular project, we're going to be dealing with all those materials. So we're going to be taking out all the asbestos. We're going to be taking out all the PCBs, whether it's in the soil or in the caulking inside the building and other locations. So each wing will be abated and renovated and then turned into new. So the other space that we'll be looking at is the existing library media center is another space that we're actually going to be converting the media center into temporary classrooms, netting about 15 classrooms for swing space. That's kind of the math that worked out as to what we need when we take on a wing. Is we need to create 15 classrooms to be able to swing them in. So we're just going to march around the building. We're going to be renovating a wing and move them into the temporary space, and then we take on the other wing and so forth.
Now, even though we're calling them temporary classrooms, they're going to have everything that the final classroom is going to have. It's going to have data lines dropped in. It's going to have a phone. It's going to have intercom systems. It's going to have a clock. It's going to be a full-fledged classroom. It's just temporary because that's not where the final location is going to be.
Right.
Mr. Ryder.
Just for clarification, as you're walking us through this is important to the people at home because some of us know these plans. We've been in these meetings. Can you clarify when these things are happening? So, for example, you said summer. Can you say summer of 2020, summer 2021? Just so
Absolutely.
everybody at home has an understanding of this as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this particular slide that you see here, that's actually 2020, this coming summer right there. So the temporary classrooms that are being created, you see this particular layout, and that's happened to be the actual media center layout. And you could see the new classrooms that are being created. Now, this is temporary swing space, but like Randy indicated earlier, it's pretty much like a finished space. We're going to have acoustical ceiling, new lighting, flooring is going to be also new, and then we have to circle back at the end of the project, and we have to take all that out and restore this particular media center to its current, or, you know, we're doing some upgrades actually within the media center itself as well. The next temporary classroom or swing space that's being created, as I indicated earlier, is the actual cafeteria space seating area. Now, the cafeteria flooring happened to have asbestos-containing tile, so in order to construct these walls, we were able to actually glue down the actual bottom track of the walls. These are all drywall with studs, so we'll be able to glue down those studs, and they're fairly secure. It's a method that we utilize quite often. And then when we go back to renovate this particular wing, which is going to be turned into the new admin wing, one of the latter phases of the project, we will actually remove all the temporary walls, remove the temporary ceilings, and we're going to remove all the asbestos tile as well and renovate it into a new admin wing, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. The existing auditorium itself, that's being utilized as a temporary cafeteria because we are going to be utilizing the cafeteria seating area for the swing space or the swing classrooms. So JCJ, along with working with the administrators, they were able to come up with a temporary layout. And if I can zoom here into the auditorium itself. So you'll see what's happening there is that this is the location of all the equipment that's going to be lined up in order for the serving line, if you will. The serving line will be coming down, and obviously there's two alleyways. We are removing some existing auditorium seating, and some of them are fairly bad shape. And we're also removing some in the middle aisle also to create a better circulation for the actual serving lines. Let me see.
And do you know how long approximately they'll be eating in the what is now the auditorium?
It's going to be approximately a little over a year because we're starting the construction of the new cafeteria wing this summer, and we finish it September of 21. It'll be open, yeah, exactly. Let me see if I can get this thing to, I'm not familiar with this particular program. Rookie. I don't know if you'll be even better than this.
What a rookie.
All right, back in business. Okay.
Excuse me. Do the auditorium chairs have as they stand right now, or I can't remember?
They have some of them do.
Some do, but they don't
flip-up
work.
tablet.
It's a, yeah.
Some do. We're going to try to. There's a lot of that are not even there or broken. So the rows that we're going to be taking chairs out, we will be replacing the ones that we are keeping. So every chair that's going to be there is going to be usable, opposed to what's there right now. You know, there's a couple hundreds that aren't even usable.
Yeah, there's whole rows where you can't use more than 3 or 4 of the 18 chairs. So.
Right. So advancing the slides into construction, this particular slide shows actually the winter break of 2021. And you can see the green shaded areas, which is up in this location right here. Those are the completed areas. So that blue wing will be done around the winter break of next year, okay, for 21. We're still going to be working in the areas on this side as far as the renovation of the cafeteria wing, the auditorium, as well as the black wing itself, which is the existing TechEd wing. Once we complete this particular blue wing, as I indicated earlier, the occupants of the white wing will relocate into the swing space, and then we'll take over the white wing. And that's kind of the process we're going to go around. In addition to that, on the exterior of the building, during the summer and the favorable months in terms of weather, we'll be also working on the site work to complement all the addition itself, work taken on as much as possible. There'll be a temporary bus loop that we're going to need to be actually establishing on the north side, and I'll show you that in a few minutes as well. Fast forward into April of 21, you see that the actual gymnasium now comes, we actually take over that space, because ultimately what we're trying to accomplish is that to turn over this entire quadrant of the building when it's completed over to the school, and we'll kind of do a flip. The construction will be on the bottom side of the page, and the building or the occupants will be on the north, on the upper side of the page. Summer of 21, this is the area that's going to be most busy for us. You'll see that we're everywhere. We're getting close to wrapping up the actual renovations for the cafeteria wing as well as the auditorium and the black wing. At that point in time, we're going to be taking over the hub area itself. The white wing will be coming close also to completion as well. So this is kind of next summer. We're trying to take advantage of the summer recess to be able to attack as much as possible. We're actually also going to go into the admin wing, looking to construct the new canopy that Jim presented earlier on. We're going to be demoing the existing kitchen because the new kitchen is actually going to be coming online very soon. So that'll be an advantage for us to go in there, start removing all the equipment, start doing abatement work over this summer, and do as much as possible. As you march forward, as I indicated, this is September 21. So the green area, all the green shaded areas are completed. As you can see, the cafeteria is completed, the auditorium is completed, as well as all the music spaces there. And we're still going to be working on the actual gym space itself. And that's going to be coming online in the fall of 21, and I'll show you that in a few seconds. Now we're actually focusing on the hub area construction-wise. That's all the yellow shaded area, and as well as the red wing. We're going to be taking on the existing portables that are currently out there as well. Still, the swing spaces are still active because we need them. We're taking out the red wing, so they need to utilize those swing spaces as well, or the classrooms. Fast forward November, as I indicated in the fall, this is where the gym will be completed. So this entire quadrant of the project is pretty much all renovated and all new. And then fast forward into January, winter break of 22. The project is substantial completion now about August of 22. There are a couple of spaces that are going to be going in the fall, but primarily the major project will be summer of 22 or August 22. And again, April in the spring break of 22, that's when we finish the hub areas. And now we're focusing primarily on the existing admin wing, which is going to be the world language. And then, as you can see, the temporary swing spaces in the classrooms have disappeared because they're no longer needed at that point in time. And then we go into the summer is pretty much everything is done except for, we have one space, as I indicated earlier, the ALP space. That's when they're going to move into the new admin wing, and we're going to go back there and construct those two spaces. Actually, there are two health rooms and a corridor that goes into the new cafeteria wing. Now, those particular phasing plans, we've reviewed them with the building department as well as the fire marshal's office on several occasions, because since the building is going to be occupied, we have to meet all codes in terms of egress capacities and travel distance. So we've had several meetings with them to make sure they're in support of those phasing plans, and they provided some great feedback. We've incorporated that feedback into those phasing plans. And just as it relates to the site, as I indicated earlier, we're kind of broke it up into 3 quadrants. We have this particular yellow area is actually one of the areas that we're going to attack first. And we're going to establish a temporary bus loop in this location on the north end. And then we're just going to the fields are going to be one of the last areas we're going to attack as weather permits and, the timeline permits. We're going to actually be working on those spaces a lot more. We're going to attack the parking lot, so we have a lot of drainage, a lot of utilities, new electrical, new gas mains coming in, and obviously the drainage and sewer lines that we're going to have to install as well. So again, the only time we can renovate the parking lots and when the school is not in session. So those are the areas we're going to take advantage of either whenever the weather is favorable. And those shows kind of the temporary bus loops that we're looking to construct early on, because again, this is the area going to be disrupting the most. And as I move forward, it kind of shows you all the areas as we march around the building for the renovations. Those are small pockets of areas and spaces. That shows our fence line of the construction, how we're going to isolate ourselves from the occupied spaces. With every project, we put a project schedule. I can zoom in to show you kind of some of the big milestones. So right now, we're looking to advertise to bid sometime early March. And as I indicated earlier, we're looking at about a mid-May construction start, mid to late May, once the bidding concludes. And let me see. Another piece that we are working on is what we call developing all the bid packages. So what you see in front of you is about we take these projects and we break them up into at least 30 to 35 what we call proposal forms or bid packages. So we buy the demolition one package, the concrete is another package, the masonry, the steel. We do not lump sum packages together just because it becomes more costly and allows us to be able to manage these packages a lot better. So currently we're targeting about 30 packages. Some of the examples, we have masonry, concrete, steel, millwork, roofing. These are all separate subcontractors that we're going to hire that will actually work, and they'll own those packages. So it becomes a lot more cost effective, even down to the lockers. We do not include lockers in the general trades package. We buy them direct. So again, we're trying to maximize the dollars, and it worked for us tremendously at the high school, and we do it on all our school projects, and we have at least 2 to 3 or sometimes 4 to 5 different bidders at each package. So it's the pre-bid and the bid opening gets very busy for us. You're talking 30 packages, at least 3 to 4 bidders. That's 120 bidders that day for bid opening. So it can get very hectic. Aside from that, we look forward to starting this project on time, and we're definitely very happy to be here. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few. First, I just wanted to clarify 2 things. Randy, I think you mentioned about the music space and the band space. You said that was actually going to be a bit larger than it currently is now?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Yeah, some parents had expressed some concern there. And you guys were moving the shop classes to the hub area, right, where the old auditorium is? All right, very good. Also, one quick thing, the doors to the classrooms, how are they going to open? Are they going to open in or out?
In.
That's off. I can show you.
All the classroom doors will open out.
Oh, okay, because there was some concern expressed to me that if they open out, they're going to, interfere with lockers that are close to the classrooms. Is there any?
Yeah, most of the classroom doors are pocketed, and we're going to be able to actually swing them 90 degrees, and the extent of the lockers will kind of pocket those doors.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Also, what was the orientation of the baseball and softball fields? Somebody had expressed concern that they were actually facing to the west, which since they typically will play in the afternoon, the sun glare.
Well, the optimal angle for a baseball field is typically kind of northeast. It's a little off north. So, we've reoriented the ball fields, and they'll work fine with
All right.
light.
Very good. And then lastly, was there any consideration to maybe in that spot on Raffia Road right in front of the school to maybe making that like a 2-lane on one side of it to ease traffic concerns as they go into that bus loop or the drop-off loop?
On Raffia Road? Mm-hmm. Well, again, we did traffic study with the state, and the state determined that it wasn't required, so therefore it would not be reimbursable.
Okay.
So if we wanted to do it, it would be 100% taxpayer dollars. So it wasn't required based on the study. We were able to achieve what we needed to achieve on site, so therefore it would not be reimbursable, which is one of the things that we're trying to maintain.
All right, thank you.
I love that we're going to have a separate public section of the building, like the auditorium, cafeteria, and gymnasium. There really isn't a need, other than for parent-teacher conferences, for anybody to be in the building, with those areas the only exceptions. I just wanted to clarify, we don't actually encourage or allow folks to walk willy-nilly through the building now, as Randy alluded to.
It's not controlled.
Correct.
It's not encouraged, but it's not controlled
Correct.
either.
I just wanted to clarify that this new building won't be the end of that. We don't want that to happen even now. I know we don't have a count of how many good seats there are in the auditorium, but you said the new auditorium will have 607 seats. Do you know how many seats we have currently? Even though half of them are broken, do you know how many spots we have? Is that an increase of 10%, 20%? It's larger, no?
Yeah, I think the existing auditorium has 420 or 430 seats.
Okay, I thought
We're-
450, so.
We're taking about 30 to 40 of those offline when we remove them for the circulation.
Right.
For the
cafetorium.
For the cafetorium, right. So,
I like that.
Yeah. It should be, we'll have enough, everyone's comfortable with the way we're going to leave it, that we'll have enough for the 3 waves.
Right.
To even there.
This new updated PowerPoint with more updated dates and target dates, can you post that on the building committee site?
Yeah, once we get approval.
Once it's approved, yes,
Because up to
understood.
now, it's still draft. Once we get the authorization to present it, to have it go through the state,
Yep.
then it becomes final. It's not only going to be going on the website, we also, with the Board of Ed and the superintendent and the principal, we're going to be coming up with a date to do a public hearing, question and answer period at the high school. We're going to like to try to give at least a 30-day notice to the public. We'd like to advertise in every means we can through the school system, through every child, throughout even people that don't have kids in the school. They're paying for it, so they're more than welcome to come in and ask any questions to see where their dollars are going. So, absolutely, once it's voted on and approved, it becomes public.
Yeah, because I believe the second biggest question after the price tab and getting the 71% reimbursement is the phasing. As a parent of a current 6th grader and a 3rd grader who will be there once we're done, that's the questions that I get, because I also mentor in the building and I'm in there once or twice a week for something. I've seen you guys there with your meetings as well. I think that's the biggest concern that I've had, and we've done a great job so far, but just to continue just keeping the public in the loop, the parents in the loop, and also the parents of the 5th graders coming in next year. Hey, just so you know, these things are going to be happening around you, but we're safe. Demolition when we're not in school, only construction when they're in the building, things like that. Because where will we be not opening day fall of 2022? Because you said there'll be a few things we'll be buttoning up, but like say Halloween, November 2022, are we done at that point?
At that point in time, the project is completed.
Perfect. So if you are a current 3rd grader, when you start your junior high, middle school experience, other than maybe a month or 2 of buttoning some things up, 3rd grade and younger will have this brand new building for the next 50 some odd years.
That's correct.
Right. So that's very important.
Just to clarify, when we actually start separating all these wings, there'll be hard partitions. The construction area will be 100% separated. The fire alarm system now, again, there's an existing fire alarm system, existing sprinkler system, not to mention the electrical and the mechanical systems. All those systems will be running in parallel, the new and the old. So we'll make sure that when there's security cameras that exist now, we have to take them offline, installing in the new. The existing system is still going to remain functional. The bell system, the fire alarm system, all those systems will remain active. Very similar process we went through at the high school is that, again, not to mention the electrical and the mechanical systems. Right now, the building is running on temporary boilers. we're going to be installing the new boilers, but again, we're going to make sure that there's an existing part of the building that's still being served by those temporary boilers, so there'll be redundancy or there'll be parallel systems running at the same time. Effectively, we'll be phasing in the new and phasing out the old as we go around the building and the renovations itself. So I just want to make sure that it'll be hard barriers separating those construction areas.
The kids and staff are safe.
Absolutely. And even within the construction areas, for protection of our workers, we have also temporary fire protection system as well as heat detectors and pull stations. Because again, we want to make sure that everybody comes in and goes home the same way they came into work.
And you did speak about the PCB and the abatement of things of that nature. So I just want the community to understand that if this renovation wasn't happening, that would be another $3 to $5 million we would be spending just to clean up things that are already there,
Right.
which now effectively you'll be taking care of over the next 2.5 years as
Correct.
you clean these wings out.
Also, it would not have been reimbursable.
Correct. That would have been a $3.5 to $5 million bill, non-reimbursable.
Right.
Correct.
Yep. That's it for me for now. Thank you.
Mr. Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my questions may sound repetitive because you basically provided answers to the questions that I had, but just to make sure, you just mentioned that it's going to be separate in terms of the construction. There's going to be hard walls. So does that include separating the workers from the students, and are they going to have different points of entry? And what about facilities? If they need to use bathrooms,
Correct.
et cetera. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So as it relates to our, aside from the interior partition separations, we will have construction fencing and gates and signage, not to mention. All of our facilities, as it relates to dumpsters and portables and porta toilets, those are all going to be within the construction fenced-in areas. Nothing will be outside our construction fenced-in areas. So it's all contained. And we want to make sure even our laydown area, as well as our trade parking, will not be on site. We're actually going to be adjoining property. That's where our trailers are going to be situated, as well as our parking. Now, our trade workers start the day 7 to 3:30, so we'll make sure that we don't interfere with the bus drop-off and the bus pickup. And our guys are going to be walking in to the site, but there'll be no cross communication or, again, so that's why we have 3 superintendents on site, which is a lot more staff members than we typically staff on a project of this size. At the high school, we had just as many, but that was a bigger project there. But again, just for the reason of the kids and the occupied areas and the nature of the project, we elected to staff this project with a lot more staff members just to control the separation and make sure that the workers as well as the students and the faculty are completely separated. And there'll be always daily communications with the school principal and then the administrators. That's what our superintendents and project managers will do. They will have weekly meetings with them or as needed meetings, touch base with them, making sure that if there's any issues, and obviously we're constructing, we're renovating within an existing site, they sometimes will be an issue, whether it's a noise issue or a dust or, but that's the reason why we have our superintendents and our project managers on site to address these issues and address them immediately. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great project, and I think the team did a tremendous job in putting together the plans forward to provide the best product that's out there for this particular project.
Great, yes. I mean, it seems like you've covered just about every detail that one can think of, and I appreciate the answer and the fact that you've given thought to that. One last question that I have, you mentioned that the PowerPoint was going to go up on the website. I was actually thinking that the Microsoft project with the dates, to maybe not as detailed, is that also going to be provided so that people can actually look at what they can expect by when?
Absolutely, yes. And in addition to like the phasing plan, which typically has the timeline, those are really the most easier to read. We also have a project schedule, and our schedules are typically 20 pages deep that details each area, from when the windows are going to go in, to the flooring, to the doors, to the paint. So it's high level detail, and that information is all going to be available as well.
I'm sure there's going to be some parents that will want to follow it to the T, and if we have the information, why not make it available to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not an issue at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Okay, couple questions. So if you know me, you're not going to be surprised I'm going to ask this, but with sports schedules and the fields, I know you said, and actually this goes back to anything on the outdoor portion of this reconstruction. So the parking lot's going to be in the summer, or thereof, pretty much. How about the fields? What's being updated on the fields? And
Everything's being updated on the fields. Everything's going to be turned around, relined. There's going to be, like I said earlier, there's going to be handicap accessible paths. There's going to be pods, area where you can store the equipment. Everything's going to get touched. It's going to get reseeded. So the entire fields are going to get touched.
is that going to interfere with any of the scheduled sports?
Nope. What we've done is once we start construction, the fields are off limit. Even though we may not be doing work for 6 months on there, but we don't want anybody to be able to cross the path of construction to get to the fields. So once we occupy the building for construction, the fields are offline. We've been coordinating it with the town, Park and Recs, and everybody else.
Athletic director.
Athletic directors, they're already scheduled where they're going to be holding their events. We've also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So after this June, everything, all the field usage will be diverted to the other fields.
Right, I see.
In town until February or March of '23.
Okay, I see.
We'll get through the end of the fall season for establishment, and then
Right.
they'll be available for the spring of '23.
Okay, makes sense.
Yep.
Did you have?
No, I mean, just from
Okay.
a safety aspect, as Randy indicated, it's because whoever's going to go to the fields, they're going to need to park somewhere.
Definitely.
And that could cause a major issue. So for the safety of the project itself, we felt that was the best approach to go about doing it.
Agreed. Okay. Secondly, maybe this is more of a town-related issue, but it's all ties into JFK. The crosswalk on Raffia Road can we do something to maybe put a lighted crosswalk, if you know the sign I'm talking about, with the...
Well, again, anything outside the property itself is not part of our project. It would have to be a town.
Okay,
If
all
the
right.
town wanted to do that.
I brought that up to joint facilities,
right.
and we're looking into that.
Okay.
And again, anything outside the actual footprint of the property is not eligible for reimbursement under
Right.
our grant.
Okay.
And again, outside the property line is the town's.
That first drawing he had with the red outline, that's their.
No, I get it. I'm just asking because,
Yeah.
you know, it is used. There's a major student
Absolutely.
portion that walks home, that crosses the road. Raffia is a busy road, and not only that, but I know, too, that when the Twin Rings parking lot overflows, JFK becomes the new parking lot. So there's always people using that specific crosswalk at all time.
I got that to bring it up to joint facilities.
Okay, all right, as long as that's being taken care of. But I think this is great. Obviously, there's been extensive research done into it, so I'm excited for you guys to bring it to the state.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to have CSG, our owner's rep, to talk a little bit about the costs and the budget and
Do we
the.
have to?
take over, or do you?
Yeah, you want to talk about your
Sure.
estimate? Go ahead.
All right.
So-
Before he does, any other questions? So we're good. Go.
Okay, so one other piece that I wanted to show you right on the screen is actually part of our responsibility is to develop project estimates. So this is our third estimate. We did a schematic design estimate. We did a design development estimate. And again, this is what you see in front of you is our construction document estimate. So the drawings that Jim presented earlier, we actually performed all the estimates and the takeoffs on those particular drawings. And as you could see, very similar to the breakdown that I mentioned earlier regarding the packages and the trade contracts, we're going to break it up. This kind of gives you the numbers, the background behind it. So again, the total construction cost, not project cost, construction cost is $72.5 million. And that's what we refer to as the GMP. And within that GMP, there's all the trade costs and there's other insurance costs and bonding costs. So that's kind of, and this is about 33-page document that shows all the detailed breakdowns. So every single door and frame and hardware has all been taken off and accounted for. All the walls, all the windows, all the site work, the asbestos abatement, and the PCBs is all contained within that estimate. And again, we did 3 estimates, and we reconcile those estimates with other estimators that either work for the design firm or work for the OPM. So we're comfortable with the number, and we're hopeful that when we go out to bid, that's the number we're going to come and see you guys in a couple of months with. Chris?
So can I just unplug this?
He's got his own.
Let's see here. This way. Oh, whatever. Right, there's. Okay, so a couple of key things that I wanted to mention tonight to you all. First, our renovation status letter. As you can see, the date is last week. We received this last week. This locks in our essentially making everything that we touch on the project reimbursable. It takes it from an alteration and addition project to a renovate as new. Under alterations and additions, the reimbursement rate of 70.71 stays the same, but what items become eligible for reimbursement drastically reduces under the additions and alterations. Now that we have the renovate as new, that means that the entire project is now 100% eligible for the 70.71% reimbursement rate. So we did receive that last week. Another one of the pieces to the checklist for tomorrow's state review. The overall budget, we'll zoom in on this here. Where's the zoom?
You just have to hover down.
Huh?
Just have to hover down.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
We just have to, you have to slide.
Did you fix your percentage yet?
So a couple of pieces that go into the budget, architectural design, all the other professional fees. One of the things I wanted to talk about in here was hazmat. I know, Scott, as you mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of questions and concern regarding the PCB abatement in the building. As we get closer to construction starting, the town will engage with a monitor, an abatement monitor, which will be a third-party entity that will oversee daily as the abatement is ongoing at each of the different phases. So we'll do the abatement, and then they'll go away while that phase of construction is done. Then at the beginning of the next phase, the abatement will start for a month or two. Then they'll go away. So that monitor, once we have them on board with the town, we plan to meet with the staff of the school so that they can understand what this means, what the barriers mean, what air tests are going to be provided on both sides of that wall during construction during abatement, so that they have a sense of comfort knowing that on their side of the wall, they're not being affected. So we have some money in there for that. Amar's GMP, as he mentioned before, $72.5 million. We're still tracking about $2.8 million in FF&E. That's $1.8 million for furniture and about $1 million in technology. That's building infrastructure for technology. Right now we have $1.3 million in owner's contingency, which gets us to our $84.373 million grant. Up top, there is a little box up here. It's a grant track tool that we use to track the state reimbursements. So the top is the total project cost. Right now, we're tracking about $450,000 in ineligible costs. There's some varying things that the state has. They're either limited eligibility or ineligible if it's off-site. Some off-site work. We have to do some road tie-ins in the center of the street for the gas and the sewer and the water. Anything of that nature is ineligible. So we get to the eligible cost of 83.9. The eligible 70.71% of that is about 60 million. So the town share we're tracking right now is 25 million. So that's where we are to date. And lastly, the 042 form. So this is the form. This is what wraps up this entire process. So last week, on Thursday night, we made this presentation to the building committee. At the end of that, they voted to allow Randy as the chairman to sign this form, which states that the drawings and everything are being approved by the town to go to the state, to be approved by the state to go out to bid. So tonight, we'd be asking for the same thing from the Board of Ed, to allow Walter as the chairman to sign this form as well. The superintendent has signed it, and JCJ as the architect has signed it as well. So that's where we are.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns? So, I need a motion to suspend the rules and take 11A and move it up to now to proceed with vote. Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Ms. Hall. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor? 10 in favor, 0 against. So I move to 11A, approval of JFK final design documents to be submitted to OSCG and approval form SCG-042. Moved by Ms. Thurston.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Salazar,
Four.
Mr. Rutledge,
4.
Mrs. Costa, 4. Mrs. Hall,
4.
Mrs. Thurston,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
4.
Mr. LeBlanc,
4.
Chairman Kruzel.
4.
Motion passes.
So you guys are all set to go.
Well, thank you very much.
Have fun with the state tomorrow.
Long day.
Randy, one last question. The public hearing that you want to do at JFK,
No, it's at the high school.
or at the high school
high school.
regarding JFK?
Yes.
Would that be prior to the May construction start?
Yep.
Okay.
We'd like to try to get it out within the next month or so.
Yeah,
Yep.
we were waiting for this approval.
going
Now
to
that we
be-
got it, now we're going to work on dates, see if the high school's available,
Yep.
see if work with the principal to see if the date's good. So we're going to throw some dates around. I'll get you guys all looped in on it too, so.
Right. And
Thank you.
then the most, however we can to advertise and to make the public aware of it.
Gentlemen, thank you.
people
Thank you
better.
to the committee for all their hard work, because it's, I know, I've been there, know the feeling, so.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for the liaisons that have been supporting us from the very, very beginning, and Scott from the pre-ref. So, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
So we move on to, we'll let them clean up here for a minute. Bring the forklift in for the drawings. So we'll move on to superintendent's report, and then filling in for our esteemed superintendent is our assistant superintendent, Mr. Longi.
Thank you, Chairman. We have Madison here, and so she'll go first.
Please, Madison.
On March 11th, the Student Council will be hosting the Student Teacher March Madness basketball game, and tickets are only $2, and concessions and raffles will be sold by me and the rest of the Student Council. Also, the Snowball Dance is on February 29th, and the ticket price is $10 for any Enfield High student that wants to attend. And lastly, on May 16th, the Enfield Best Buddies program, a club that promotes inclusion and friendships for students with intellectual disabilities, is having an Enfield-wide Walk for Inclusion event from 12 to 4 at Enfield High School. So anyone's welcome to participate. You just walk around the field, and it raises money for a lot of the programs we have at the school for people with intellectual disabilities. And that's it for today.
Thank you. Mr. Longi.
Yep, thank you, Madison. Also, there's a JFK parent event. John F. Kennedy Middle School will hold a 3-part series for parents and guardians called Through the Lens of a Middle Schooler. This event will be held on February 27th, March 5th, and March 26th at JFK in the auditorium from 6 to 7. Enclosed in your packets is a press release with additional information. Also, there's news on our annual Invention Convention. Our Enfield Invention Convention team is looking for volunteer judges for this year's competition. Any interested board member can contact Mr. John Dagg or the superintendent's office about being a judge for this event being held on Saturday, March 21st. So we need judges. Also enclosed in your packet is a flyer with additional information. Also enclosed in your packet is a grants report through February 2020. Also enclosed is the personnel report through February 2020. You have a couple of February, March events. I just want to note that on the 27th of February, a couple days from here, that event has been canceled. So the vocal chamber concert held at the auditorium is now canceled, just so you know. But the first reader ceremony on March 9th is still on as planned, and that will be held at the Enfield High School auditorium at 6 p.m. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Any questions? All right, we'll move on to audiences. Do we have any audiences? So before we start, just a reminder, according to policy, we invite any resident or citizen interested in speaking to the Enfield Public Schools to address the board. We ask that you state your name and address for the record and refrain from personalities. And our time limit is 3 minutes. So we have Mr. Peter Janitis.
3 minutes, and then you get a second chance to, I hope?
No.
I
Three,
can't get it all.
well, I'll give you 3.5. I'll wait and I'll start you when you get officially, when you
Can I
get,
have some time just to make a quick comment on what was just said, please?
go ahead.
Okay. Raffia Road.
Well, name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And microphone.
Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle. What I was trying to get Chris to say was the traffic when they pick up the kids and drop them off, particularly the pickups, sometimes it backs all the way up to Farmstead Circle. But if you took one of two things, where the existing sidewalk is, and if you did it in conjunction with the town, you could put a lane in there. So in other words, the cars come in down towards the south, the Four Corners package store side, and then when they'd go all the way up to the other side where across from the hockey rink, and then they fit into the loop. So you'd never have traffic on Raffia Road again.
But if I don't want to go back and forth, but I do remember that the parent loop is larger than it is now.
It's got to be a lot larger. If it's a lot larger, fine. If not.
A lot larger. It is.
Yeah, okay. And then a bike path. We have an existing bike path in town. What if you took the sidewalk in front of the school, enlarged it, went all the way down to the package store, and then had the town somehow connect it?
It's not in the scope of the project, so it can't be reimbursed. So have to go through the town with that. Somehow.
Okay, then how about if you extended the parking lot 6 feet?
Well, again, we have to.
But that's within the property of the school.
Stay in the envelope of the school. So.
Well, that would be within the parameters.
They will have public. They're going to have a public meeting. At that point, you can bring it to their attention.
Okay. Okay. The primary reason I came.
Now you can start your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
3.5. You said.
3.5.
I've come before the board for a couple reasons. One, to inform the public about a process because of everything that's been going on in social media. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of comments that are pretty derogatory about the process. We have a process to solve disputes and disciplinary matters and how they're to be resolved. All school employees, whether it's the cafeteria workers, the aides, the teachers, the administrators, are all entitled to union representation. Disputes and disciplinary matters are handled at the lowest level possible to start with. They're handled at the building level. If it's not resolved at the building level, the matter is then sent up to the central office. There, it goes to the director of personnel. He's involved or she's involved. If not resolved then it is then turned over to the assistant superintendent and the superintendent. And then the final process is done before the Board of Education. And it's only then that the Board of Education gets involved. If there's still no resolution that has been reached, it can go to the courts. Now, at any time in this process, the employee is entitled to union representation. Also, if the problem is not resolved at the superintendent's level and is brought before the Board of Ed, where the Board of Ed will sit as jurors, the Board of Ed will be informed by the superintendent that there is a problem, but he cannot solve. But no details of a case is ever given to the Board of Ed members, or at least it's not supposed to be, until the case is brought before you. This is done with the idea that you won't have any bias or predetermined judgment that could exist if the Board of Ed, when the Board of Ed members have to sit and hear the case for the first time. This is the process that we follow here in Enfield. It's being done by the present administration under Chris Drezek. It was done by Jeff Schuman, John Gallagher, and Lou Mager. There is another process, though, here in Enfield, here in the state of Connecticut, and that's one where the Board of Education can be informed at a much earlier time than before the hearing actually takes place. The board is involved earlier in the process, hopefully, to quicken the process. There are pros and cons on how the school system wishes to resolve these matters between employees and the school system. So I think it's something that we're going to have to look at, and this is the second part I want to get into. The second reason I come before the board is to hopefully make the board, that the board can make some changes in resolving personnel conflicts. As a teacher of 38 years here in Enfield, as a board member for 6 years, as somebody who's negotiated 2 teacher contracts and 1 contract with the Board of Education, I think I have some idea on how the process works. The process as it is now is a long, drawn-out, very expensive process where large settlements are done or given. And this is a burden to the school system and the taxpayers of Enfield. Every bargaining union wants higher salaries, they want better working conditions, increased benefits, a safe working environment. That's why we negotiate. However, and this is the big however, the bargaining units and the Board of Education need to sit down and honestly discuss and resolve termination cases. It must be contractual, it must be realistic, it must be done for the good of the system, for the good of the employees, for the good of the kids, and for the good of the townspeople. I've seen far too many teachers defended by the association because it's the association's written job to defend said teachers, whether good teachers or bad teachers. The same is true for aides. The same is true for administrators. I know personally of at least 5 or 6 cases where administrators have gone through something similar to what's going on now. There needs to be some language in the contracts that is fair to both sides. It wouldn't be an easy process. That's why both sides, when you realize and agree that there is a bad egg in the basket, that agreed upon termination is possible. I know it sounds crazy, but with some good faith and trust, by both sides, it's possible. Time is wasted, effort and monies are spent, the outlandish monetary settlements that are given to employees who agree to separation from the system and then demand a letter of recommendation. That doesn't work, or shouldn't work that way. We have a good educational system here in Enfield. The people who work in the Enfield Public Schools, they work hard, and they're decent and dedicated individuals. However, good is good, bad is bad. And amongst the good, there always seems to be a little bad. I would implore the board to enter into negotiations with all the bargaining units, all the bargaining agents, to help streamline the termination process. I would also like to urge board members to be informed of all serious, unresolved cases that reach the level of the superintendent before a hearing takes place. In other words, that would change the way you handle things right now. You give them all the power, and you don't know anything until it comes before you. I think you should know something before it comes to that particular point. So coming up with settlements where someone is being paid their full salary, keeping their benefits, cashing in on unused sick time, and getting a letter of recommendation and staying home and doing nothing for the town, nothing for the Enfield Public School System, it's wrong and it needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Did I use all 3?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're on a roll. I didn't want to stop you. Any other public communication? I declare it closed. Board member comments. All right, next. Mr. Ryder.
Okay, so today is the second day of our 7-week stretch of 5 days a week of school until the April break. But the good news is after the April break, we only have 34 days of school left, 34 full days and 4 early release days until the end of the current school year.
Why are you counting so closely?
That's what I do. First of all, I just wanted to thank Effie, for those that don't know. Effie was an organization started to offer grants to teachers that had project ideas, something they wanted to do to enhance the educational process inside their building or their specific classrooms. Effie has closed its doors, but they have a little bit of funding left, and what they've offered to do for our 3 K-2 schools is to help us supplement the purchase of some sensory pathways. These will be like stickers, not stickers, I'm just using that word as an example, but they're basically stickers that they're going to put in their hallways at the schools, kind of gives kids a minute that need to shake something off. So there's arrows you walk on. Think of it as like hopscotch, but not necessarily games. So I just wanted to thank Effie for their efforts over the last decade doing that for our schools, and this is a great send-off to do for the 3 K-2 schools in our town. So thank you for that. Also on February 26th this week, ERFC is hosting their Black History Month event at Asnuntuck at 6 o'clock. Also, Girls on the Run started today, actually. They're in their 4th year at Eli Whitney and our 1st year at Prudence Crandall. So now have Girls on the Run at 2 of our 3-5 schools. Once again, to all schools and PTOs, March 1 is the box top submission deadline for the spring. The first week of March nationally is National Reading Week. That's March 2 through 6. I know we've all been invited to come to read at Stowe or some of the other schools in town. I know personally I'll be reading at Stowe, Hazardville, and Enfield Street School that week. Other invitations pending, my answers. I hope to hit at least one school each day that week. This weekend I attended the First Readers ceremony, but I'll let somebody more familiar with the First Readers Board speak to that. But I will say March 9th is their spring First Reader ceremony, March 9 at the high school. Also, we just had a great presentation from the JFK Building Committee. I want to thank them for all their hard work and also let the public know that at JFK, one of the fundraisers we're doing over the next several school years until this school opens up, brand new in the fall of 2022. Fall of 2022. So we're doing a It's My Brick fundraiser where you can purchase as a family or a local business or as a former student of JFK or as a future student of JFK. There's no limitations. And I just wanted to announce tonight that the 2019-2021 Board of Education have all chipped in. We're going to be buying a brick from the current Board of Ed to donate to the JFK It's My Brick fundraiser. So if you're interested in that as a local business or as a family or as a former JFK student, you can go to enfieldpto.com/JFK and you'll find the It's My Brick fundraiser under their activity calendar. Also at JFK on March 6th is the students versus faculty basketball game. Tickets are available for that on the website as well. From Hazardville, I was at a PTO meeting last week, and one thing that I will ask the superintendent about when he gets back is, and I can also mention this to Andy as well, the PBIS coordinator was hoping to somehow work PBIS into the elementary handbook going forward, since we're all doing it now. So Ms. Edelstein had said she'd maybe work with us on how she'd like to see it portrayed. So I said, any examples, any samples you could send us over, that'd be great. Give us something to look at. And we've set a date for the HMS Fun Run. This is the 7th annual HMS Fun Run, which used to be a fundraiser to get the school a new playscape, which finally was installed last school year. So now it'll just be a PTO fundraiser to go towards field trips and PTO events for the following school year. That'll be Saturday, June 13th, the last Saturday before the last week of school. And that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. LeBlanc.
All right, what do I have? Let's see. Well, yes, I too attended First Readers. I'll leave the majority to Miss Hall over there. But I do have to throw out a couple things, and one is to Charlotte Riley. She does an amazing job every year with that, not just that event in particular, but First Readers just in general. My other thanks goes out to Scott Ryder for DJing. He did a good job for sure. I had my dance moves going, and the last one is to Scott Copen for hosting the trivia and reading off the questions. So it was a well-attended event, but Ms. Hall, I know you have some comments on that, so I'll leave like those to you.
Now you know what I feel like.
And to keep it short for you, Mr. Longi, I just want to wish the girls basketball luck on Monday in their state game against Greenwich. Bring home a W.
Ms. Costa.
Thank you. This Friday, the 28th, is Parkman's special Someone Dance. And on Sunday, March 22nd, they're having a Two Moms Purse Bingo to raise funds for the 5th grade committee. I also attended the First Readers Trivia Contest, and I will just say, because I know Joyce won't say this, I sat at a table that won a prize, and we'll just leave it at that. Perhaps next year you'll want to consider where you sit. I attended the ERFC Ice Cream Social for the Enfield Street and Parkman schools, and I can honestly say, put a little ice cream in front of the kids, and they had a great time. I also attended the CREC Legislative Breakfast at the Capitol, and they had a very interesting discussion on the difficulties of recruiting minorities for teaching. And they also had a discussion around creating, I'll use the term regional, centers much like our Eagle Academy. And Superintendent Dresser had the opportunity to get up and address the group about what we've done with our Eagle Academy. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Hall.
I want to thank everybody for doing my speaking. And we did have a very good time with our trivia event. And I thank all those people who came and warn people that we'll have another one next year and you can come and have fun too. And do come to our ceremony on the 9th.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Who's next? Anyone else? Anyone else? So I will again say, and I'll speak words that are my former vice chair and now Councilor Riley and president of the First Readers would say, it was awesome. That's her favorite word. It was awesome. And she did a great job, and the whole committee did a great job, and it was a great night, so. But she loves the word awesome, so I had to throw that out there. And I think that's all I got, because everybody else filled in all my blanks too, so we'll leave it at that. Number 10, unfinished business. A, new policy 5,000 students concept and roles in student policy, second reading. Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you just mentioned, this is the second reading. We approved the first reading last week. This particular part of the 5,000 series spells out our non-discrimination policy, and I hope tonight's just mostly a procedural vote so we can approve this. So with that, I'd like to move that we approve the second reading of new policy 5,000.
Motion by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion on the second reading? Roll call, please.
Mr. Salazar?
4.
Mr. Rutledge?
4.
Mrs. Costa?
4.
Ms. Hall?
4.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
4.
Mr. LeBlanc?
4.
Chairman Kruzel?
4.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 11 we took care of already, so we'll move to number 12, board committee reports, curriculum. Ms. Hall, I guess, will handle this tonight?
Yes. I get to say something now. The curriculum meeting last Thursday covered some very interesting material. The second year of the new development in teaching mathematics was a major subject for the evening. It is the second year of a significant change in the way math is being taught, primarily based on problem solving, with students, no matter what level, actually developing on their own some of the principles of math that they then can use, and will, at least the plan is, that they will be better involved in math from the beginning and not be one of those people who say, I hate math, what do we do this for? As many students have done over the years. It was an impressive presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing the good results that I expect to see. It is similar to the method that is being used in science and technology as well, so I think we're getting to the point where we've got a very strong science and math curriculum developed in-house, expanded beyond that to all of the grades. We also reviewed the assistant reading program, which only is incorporating a modification to what currently exists. The schedule and the plan remain the same, but now each grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th, will be treated as separate classes, whereas currently they have been grouped together, all the grades in one type of reading program. The anticipation is that it will allow the reading program to develop better, so that as it gets more rigorous through the 3 years, that each level will be able to gain more. And my hope is that everyone starts learning to read and enjoys every bit of it. We had a minor review of the current talented and gifted program, with expected more information in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Anything else anyone want to add? Okay. Finance, Ms. Costa.
Finance Committee did not meet this 2-week period. Our next meeting is on March 16th.
Policy, Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting is actually tomorrow evening. I actually want to take the time to thank a couple residents who have emailed us recently with some questions about the policies. I tell people out there, keep it coming. We definitely want to keep a reflective eye on the policies for the board, not just the ones that we review on schedule, but if there's any type of improvements that people notice, we would definitely like to hear that. I think we might actually have a guest tomorrow night, and we'll continue to review the 5,000 series, hopefully get that done by our March meeting, and be able to move into the 6,000 series by April. So, thank you.
Leadership met, and not much to discuss other than we did reach out to CABE to look into that equity program that the superintendent mentioned at our last meeting. And there will be a meeting, we'll have a meeting with them about that. We'll bring you up to speed on that when that comes. Joint facilities meeting Thursday, and we have actually a special guest. The DPW chairman from the council is going to be with us, Joe Bosco, and we're going to go over possible roof referendums and also the transfer stations upgrades. So JFK pretty much had an update today, so we're all set there. Joint security is meeting next month, I believe.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually...
That's first Wednesday in March.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So next week. Oh, yeah, that is next month. Oh, my
Yes,
God.
it
All
is.
right.
Insurance is also meeting next Tuesday.
Yep.
So we'll have some more on that. So we'll move to number 13, approval of minutes, regular BOE meeting minutes, February 11, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hall, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Any discussion, additions, deletions? All in favor? Against? Abstain? One abstention. Approval of accounts and payroll.
We have none today.
Correspondence and communications, I forgot one thing during my comments, and I think this, I'm inviting the entire board to this. Buzz Robotics is having a pasta supper next Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, from 5 to 8 p.m. at the St. Bernard's Church Hall on 426 Hazard Ave in Enfield. Tickets are $10 at the door. Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day, so let's help these guys out. It's a great cause. It's a great meal. I know there's also desserts, and they have a raffle and a lot of door prizes and all that. So next Wednesday, March 4th.
Question.
Yes.
Did Buzz participate in this recent robotic competition or
They're in the process of building now their first competition.
because there were the picture on the front page of the JI today referenced something that's going on with local high schools, and I just wondered to know if Buzz was involved.
They're in the process of, I think they're like 80% built, the robot's built. I think their first competition's not till end of March.
Thank you.
I believe. They have, Hartford is a site. I had the list and I forgot it. But we'll, stay tuned, we'll get those dates to you, but.
I can give you the dates if you want, Joyce. The first one's at Worcester WPI. That's on March 22nd and the 23rd. And then on April 4th and 5th, they're in Hartford at Hartford Public High School. And then soon after that, April 9th through the 11th, they are at the Big E Fairgrounds. And that's the New England District Championship, but they have to qualify for that. And then they go to the World Championship, and that's in Detroit, Michigan, and that's April 29th to May 3rd. So it gets busy. And they always get to go to the World Championships because of their status. Yep.
They don't have to compete, they already know they're going?
They already know they're going in
Because they're previous.
they're previous winners. It's like your gold members or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it gets busy for them.
But I know the procedure is different this year where they had a deadline they had to build to. Now they can build all the way up to their first competition, so.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I know a business that's giving them a lot of metal to do it, so we'll leave it at that.
I have one correspondence.
Go ahead.
I have one correspondence from the superintendent's office. I will forward this to Walter to send to the Board of Education, but we've been invited to a day on the Hill by CABE to go over CABE's legislative priorities with the state of Connecticut for the year 2020. It is Wednesday, March 11th at 8:30 a.m. at the Bushnell in Hartford. So I received this evening, and we'll get that to Walter to circulate to the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Do we have a need for executive session? No. Motion to adjourn. Ms. Thurston, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.